Imagine being stuck at school over the holidays with a teacher you can't stand, a student who won't cooperate, and a cook who's just trying to get by. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? But in The Holdovers, this unlikely trio turns that nightmare into an unforgettable journey of growth, connection, and redemption. Welcome back to Film Flash. Today, we're diving into The Holdovers, a touching comedy drama released in 2023. This movie stars a curmudgeonly teacher, rebellious student, and a kind-hearted cook. Set in the 1970s, The Holdovers offers a nostalgic, feel-good story packed with wit, charm, and deeply human moments. Critics have praised it for its brilliant performances and emotionally resonant narrative. So, what makes this movie worth your time? Now, let's dive into the details. Spoiler alert! The movie opens in 1970 at Barton Academy, a prestigious New England boarding school. We meet Paul Hunham, a cranky history teacher with no tolerance for nonsense. Paul is brilliant, but abrasive, making him universally disliked by students and faculty alike. As Christmas break approaches, most students leave for the holidays. However, a small group of holdovers, students who can't go home, remain behind. Paul is reluctantly tasked with supervising them, responsibility he resents. Among the holdovers is Angus Tully, a smart but rebellious 15-year-old who feels abandoned by his mother, who prioritizes her new husband over spending Christmas with him. Angus's wit and defiance immediately put him at odds with Paul, leading to several humorous yet tense exchanges. At the same time, we meet Mary Lamb, the school's cook. Mary is grieving the loss of her son, who died in the Vietnam War. While she tries to keep her spirits up, her pain is palpable, and she finds solace in small moments of kindness. As the students settle in, Paul enforces strict rules. From curfews to meal times, he made the students study and exercise every day. When one of the students fakes an illness to get sent home with the other kids, only Angus remains at the academy because they couldn't get a hold of his mother to seek permission, leaving Paul and Angus stuck with each other. This forces them into a reluctant one-on-one dynamic, with Mary acting as a buffer between their clashing personalities. Mary urges Paul to loosen up toward Angus, which he agrees to. He tried to be, but it only infuriates Angus.
Well, I'm trying.
They had a clash that led to a chase between them. In the process, Angus broke his arm and was rushed to the hospital. They promised to keep it a secret between them, so Paul doesn't get into trouble.
Okay, then this all remains entre nous. Got it? You know what entre nous means?
Oui, monsieur.
As days passes by, they form an unlikely bond. They got invited to a Christmas Eve party by Miss Crane, a teacher from the school. They all went to have a little fun. But their fun was shortlisted when Mary got drunk crying over son. They had to return back to the school. On Christmas Day, Paul woke up very early and decided to surprise them with a Christmas tree and bought them a gift. Mary cooked a delicious meal, and they had their little bonding over the meal like a family. Angus proposed a trip to Boston, but Paul was against it, saying they were not allowed to leave the campus. After much persuasion from Mary, Paul agreed and said they'd just call it a field trip.
But I suppose we could call it a field trip.
They packed their belongings and set off on the road. Paul dropped Mary off at her pregnant sister's house, so she could be close to family. Then Paul and Angus headed to Boston. In Boston, they visited the museum, where they talked about history, explored the library, and bonded over a skating session. During their outing, Paul ran into an old colleague from college. Trying to save face, Paul lied about his job, introducing Angus as his nephew. Later, he confessed to Angus why he lied. Paul revealed that he had been expelled from Harvard University after a false accusation and never re-enrolled in another college. He admitted that if his colleague knew he was a high school teacher, he'd likely mock him. Angus understood and reassured Paul, and the two shared a laugh over it. Next, they headed to a cinema to catch a movie. During the film, Angus excused himself to use the bathroom, but instead, he quietly slipped out. Paul became suspicious and followed him, only to spot Angus entering a taxi. He chased after him, and Angus quickly explained that he wasn't running away, he just wanted to visit his father and promised he would return afterward. Angus pleaded with Paul to come with him, and Paul reluctantly agreed. They headed straight to a psychiatric hospital, where Paul learned about Angus's father and his condition. While Angus met with his father, Paul waited in the hallway. Angus excitedly told his father about school, his grades, and his involvement in sports, but his father appeared lost and unresponsive. The reality of his father's condition left Angus heartbroken. On their ride back to the hotel, Angus was visibly upset. To lighten the mood, they went to a restaurant to wait for Mary. While there, Angus poured his heart out to Paul, revealing his struggles with his father's illness and the pain of being abandoned by his mother at boarding school. Paul empathized with him and offered words of encouragement. When Mary arrived, Angus asked Paul to keep the entire trip a secret, and Paul agreed.
Can you not tell Mary or anybody about... Entre nous. This whole goddamn trip is entre nous. Stand up.
Mary joined them, and they had a wonderful evening. They returned to school and celebrated the new year together. For a moment, they found joy and happiness in each other's company. When school resumed, everything returned to normal until Paul was summoned to the principal's office. Outside the office, he found Angus waiting. They had a brief chat, during which Angus explained that his mother and stepfather were inside the office. They had discovered his visit to his father and were furious, threatening to withdraw him from the school and send him to military academy. Paul reassured Angus that he would be fine. Inside the office, Angus's mother and stepfather accused Paul of allowing the trip, claiming that Angus must have tricked him into visiting his father, despite it being prohibited. Paul took full responsibility, insisting that Angus hadn't tricked him. As a result, Paul was fired from his teaching position. Paul went to his office to pack his belongings. Mary appeared to give him a parting gift, a journal for his monograph. While loading his stuffs into this truck, Angus approached him to express his gratitude and say goodbye. The movie ends with Paul driving out of the school grounds, leaving behind a bittersweet legacy of connection and sacrifice. So, what did you think of the Holdovers? Did you love the trio's journey as much as I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more movie breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.